G'day, Tyson Golder here, and welcome to Tyson Golder's Common Sense. Today I'm wanting to talk to you about just the common sense of fast farming and why really we should be all making sure that we try and eat organic or no chemicals. And this is nothing against all the people that do fast farming. They have to, because they're trying to make a living. But it's no good for our gut, which is our stomach, which they actually now, the research is that it's our second brain. And I believe that's why so many issues we're having. Because of fast farming, we now grow 2 or 3 times as much as we ever grew in the past. The microbes in the soil that you can't see really aren't there most of the time, because there's just chemical inputs and there's fertilizer inputs, and really not much of it's from nature. So the soil and the microbes that are in the soil that make great conditions to grow really healthy plants aren't there. And this is all down to money and people trying to make a living off the land, and that hasn't changed for hundreds of years. But one of the things I wanted to talk today about is the fact that don't think that the regulators are there to protect your interests as far as whether things are healthy for you. So don't think just because you can buy it that it has been checked out, because as we've seen, one of the researchers actually researched the blueberries that they bought in, I think, a New South Wales supermarket. And you know, these blueberries are sold all over Australia. They're very economical a lot of the time, but there's a reason. So what happened is the researcher actually bought some blueberries, went and did testing on them, broke them down into what chemicals are actually in the blueberries. They sent them away for testing, and they found not only one trace of something that's actually banned, but also higher levels than allowable of something that is allowed. And also they were saying, and I'm not a professional, so I'm telling you just a basic general version. Like one of the things that they found is that if you eat more of those blueberries, and a lot of kids eat blueberries because they love them because they've been grown to be so sweet now, that you are taking in higher levels of this chemical. Now, after the researcher at the university actually went and did the work and then made the regulator aware of it, now the regulator has done an investigation, and I think they've changed the level. So it just actually shows that the regulator is not there to protect you. The regulators are missing in action. And the other thing that we see is that you may think that the regulator is going to look after your best interests, but there has been plenty of evidence where they're missing in action, or the people making decisions have conflicts of interest. So for instance, one way that can happen is that if we're talking about these chemicals, have the decision makers that think it's okay, have they ever worked for chemical companies? Have they ever made income from chemical companies? Not now, but have they done it in a year, or will they expect to deal with them in the future? And this is the thing, and this is what means that the regulators not necessarily will be dealing with this, because I think there's lots of conflict of interest, and this happens in medical as well. If the regulators and the board of scientists or whoever get their funding from the big chemical companies or pharmacy or wherever, they have to have a conflict of interest because they would like to work again. The main message today is not knocking the blueberry industry or anything like that, but really I think we should eat less of it and eat organic, because at least the organic ones you would hope would have no chemical in it. Now, it doesn't mean they're nutrient rich, and that's a separate thing. So if you can get more diversity in organic blueberries, if they have more regenerative agriculture, that would be the ultimate that you could get. And yes, they are double the price, and maybe we eat less of them, and maybe instead of eating a punnet of blueberries, mix them up with some nuts, some walnuts, some almonds. You know, you can get the slivered almonds, which doesn't have the outside, which can have some inflammation in them. Mix that up, and all of a sudden you're getting those little gut buddies in here are getting all of this great stuff to work with. So, and it's not about like, oh, that means we can't eat things that we really love. I think we're just eating too much of it because we're not getting variety. But the message and the common sense that I'm saying, don't think your regulator is there protecting you, and this is all around the world that there's been evidence of this, and you've got to be very careful. And you really want to say, you know, is there any conflicts of interest? Are the decision makers, or have they, or will they in the future ever work for the chemical companies, or basically have a conflict of interest? So this story about the blueberries wasn't the regulator picked it up. It was a university did some testing and said, hello regulator, this is what we found. And it's like completely missing an action, absolutely missing an action. So really, and that's why, you know, if you're raising a family, or, you know, you're part of a family and you care about even your health and your future, you need to be really aware. And don't think this is about costing everyone a lot more money, because when you get the balance right, you're not eating the amount of food that you think you need, and you can afford to buy good quality. So my common sense recommendation is regenerative agriculture, food that comes from that, and that really means that you get nutrients through obviously the animals, improving the land with their manures and so forth. We grow things in that, and there's lots of gut bugs that benefit from what's in the soil through the plants. So they actually did studies, and around the turn of the century, the vegetables that were grown then have, like, I think approximately 3 times more nutrients than the vegetables we grow now, because we grow fast farming. And like, you can think you've got a big bowl of veggies, but the nutrients aren't in there what used to be there. G'day, I'm Tyson Golder, and I'm here to talk to you about Tyson Golder's Common Sense. We've talked about, you know, doing 10 minutes of exercise. Like, this is a really crucial part of living healthy, living independent, and having a great life, and not really fearing getting older. So, as I've said before, everyone's got 10 minutes. If you don't want to do 10 minutes and you want to end up going to the chemist all the time, everything takes time. So why not put 10 minutes a day and do some form of reasonable exercise without going crazy? Just do it to what age you are, but do 10 minutes a day and everything works better. Do we have anybody that has like classic cars or toys and that, and no, we're never going to run them? That's part of looking after them, and we need to do the same with our health. Now, the thing I wanted to talk today about is the rabbit food. Now, and I've been guilty of this as much as anyone. Like, I love steaks, and protein's very important. It changed man when they worked out how to cook protein and so forth. But what we actually need to focus on is making sure, because I've talked before about this with the gut buddies, all the things that are in here, and I think, just talking about my common sense, that really what's changed is chemicals like the Roundups and fast farming, where we grow many more crops, and farmers have to do that because of price pressures. And I think we need to go back to slower agriculture, but pay people on the land properly to grow produce slower but better, and cut out the chemicals, because one of the things with some chemicals, they're working in the same pathway as what your gut buddies are. So it's very bad to pick up those chemicals in your system. At least having one meal a day of a mix, a variety of great vegetables, that is really important, because your gut buddies go, whoa, look what we've got to work with. We now have awesome stuff, and that awesome stuff will change your general health. Some of the great vegetables are the kales, the leeks. You can steam them, put a bit of water in a bowl, chop it up, steam them. Sweet potato is an amazing food, but if you eat lots of it, it can get fattening. The way to do that is actually cut up small amounts. So cut them in a little bit like little squares, and then they are just great flavour through your greens. So obviously your lettuce, your iceberg lettuce, they're very hydrating. One of the things you can do is say, well, today I'm going to munch away on lettuce, but once a day at least, to get those greens into your diet. And if we do that, we're changing how much inflammation is in our diet, in my opinion. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health professional, I'm just someone that's trying to work this out. But I know that Mother Nature has all the answers, and we need to go back to slow food, slow produce. Years ago, when my grandfather was growing up, everything was slow, but everything was better. And now some of the studies are that vegetables only have a third of their nutrient value that they used to have, because no one measures food on nutrient value, and there's a lot of nutrients, there's a lot of things that you get from a variety. It's like a big wake-up call. We've been growing up and thinking one crop. Mother Nature doesn't do one crop. So what we should be doing is mixed species growing together, and even the soil microbes get benefit of having variety. Because if someone picked the most fun food in the world that you love to eat, and you eat it 3 meals a day, every day, you see how long you can do that for. Variety is everything. The other thing that can really help you is nuts. And you've really got to think of food like medicine. So a couple of great nuts are almonds. You can even take the skins off those. You can have the ones that are already done like that. And you can have almonds, and walnuts are very good. Maybe only a few a day. So you go, but I don't like nuts. And we go, well, this is actually just like any, supplements and stuff. Food is supplements. So you don't have to like it because you're not eating that much of it. But try mixing a packet of the walnuts and the almonds and just have 4 or 3 or 6 a day. Small amounts. And your gut buddies, the ones that are in here, go, you little beauty. But nuts can really help your gut buddies. And when your gut goes back into balance, everything goes back. If you're overweight, you will go back to a normal weight. If you're underweight, you'll go back to a normal weight. So it's really important in our gut, with all of the gut buddies, that we have a mix of everything. And of course, to get a mix of everything, it probably makes pretty much common sense to eat a mix of everything. And also blueberries. Now, a lot of modern varieties are just made sweeter and sweeter. Well, the original blueberries were pretty sort of sweet and tart at the same time. So even put 2 or 3 blueberries in with those nuts, and now you've got more of a mix. So people probably have tried and said, I've tried these berries, but they're not doing anything for me. But you've probably had one type of berry, and you've probably had way too much. It's common sense to actually get a decent plate of greens. You can go online and see that. I basically steer away from the tomatoes because they can be inflammatory, and also the standard potato. And obviously different cultures deal with them in a different way. I know, like, one of my relations in the past was never eat them after lunchtime, because obviously the body has a way to deal with them. But big fan of sweet potato, but chop it up small, gives enormous amount of flavour. There's also a herb salt called Herbamere, which is a Vogel product from Europe. Very good product. It's available at nearly every store. try Herbamere. It's beautiful, and all it is sea salt and some herbs and that, and it's just flavour. So if you change what you actually eat and go for a variety, but the things that they tell you are healthy, then you only need a few. You need a few nuts, a few berries, but what do is we go out and get a couple of packets or eat a packet at a time. And I don't think that's the way to get balance. But yeah, so we've been talking about the rabbit food today. I think we've got to change that and basically talk about superfood. And superfood is greens, but try and buy organic. And the next thing is regenerative agriculture. And regenerative agriculture is basically where you bring animals into the system to bring more manure, and that actually turns into more productivity, but then you let your plants and that actually go to full maturity. That helps the roots system. All your microbes live in the roots. It's a bit like, it's not the soil that makes it fertile, it's what has been going on in the soil that we can't see. So going back to slow food, organic is good, but organic, there's no guarantee. You don't buy something organic and say, here is the nutrient value of the organic. So what's really the best would be obviously organic, but then really looking for nutrient dense food. And we haven't got there yet, but the slower it is, I know my grandfather did farming and the paddocks would lie fallow for a certain amount of time. That's obviously good for the normal ecosystem to get back to normal. And yeah, so basically this is exciting. Like if you're thinking about your age and how to stay healthy till older age, this is the most amazing time to be alive because we've learnt a lot. And even to do with the skin cancers, my question is, in the 1920s and 30s, there were very narrow brim hats. And talking to that generation that's gone, most of them never had skin cancer. So what's changed from then to the generation that's getting older now, and we're all full of skin cancer. So what has changed? And one of the things is that obviously you've got chemicals, but you've also got nutrients that you get from a varied diet are not there if they're done fast farming. So, and I remember my grandfather that's been passed for quite a while never had a skin cancer issue and had the narrowest hats that you've ever got. So we know that the environment, UV, might be getting more, but I think our gut, nutrients in food, it's all connected. And it's a bit like we've now got fast food, fast farming, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking the farmers, but if you want premium health, slow is the go. And the great thing about that, farmers need to be paid for slow food and paid a premium, because on the land it's always hard to make $1 over overheads. So we've got to change it. And the great thing is we probably won't need as much food, but we'll need better quality food. So we've been talking about rabbit food and how to change. Protein should be a smaller part of your meal. Then you can have whatever you want when you want, but you just got to look after the gut bugs first, feed them well, and then eat what you like. And I think from my point of view, as not a professional, just Tyson Golder with some common sense, I think that what's actually more important is what you're eating rather than what you shouldn't be eating. And making sure your gut bugs and or your stomach is healthy, and then that looks after your body. And if you have treats on top of that, but I think the fact that we're not eating some of the things that we should be in a mix and in volume makes us really crave for the stuff we shouldn't have. And the big tip with that is nuts. Get those almonds and the walnuts. They're very good nuts. Some nuts, not so much, because they're actually not even nuts. Obviously, you got macadamias, in smaller quantities. Mix your nuts and eat them together, because that's where the variety. Everything's mono. You buy a packet of this and a packet of that. So mix it up. Put a couple of berries in there for flavour, and you'll find not only that you're not as hungry, but your gut bugs will thank you. So I'm Tyson Golder, and you have a good day. G'day, Tyson Golder, and I'm here today from Golder's Toowoomba, Roma and Longreach. I'm Tyson Golder, and I'm talking to you about the real cost of Australian made. So if you love Australian made and you'd like to buy Australian made, the reality is it is going to be probably 3 or times more expensive, or 4 maybe, than something made in Asia. Like the China wage rate is probably about $3 an hour. The Australian wage rate is $30 an hour. So it's a massive difference in what things are going to cost. But the great thing about Australian made, the products almost always last a lot longer, and people are happy with them, and you don't have to buy as many. So that's one of the things about Australian made, and a lot of people just want to, for whatever reason, could be budget or whatever, they just doing the price thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a true believer about Australian made, expect to pay at least 3 times what something is that's made overseas, and that's the reality of Australian made. Otherwise it will not be there. And I'm not talking about people fudging Australian made. I'm talking about real Australian made in factories in Australia, paying all of their costs, doing all the right thing. That's what it costs. So, and it's really, people can go whichever way they want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really just understanding, because unless someone says anything, then you don't know what Australian made really costs. So if the wages are 10 times, obviously you've got the other components in there, but the reality is that it should be 3 or 4 times what the overseas product is. Just common sense if it's the real deal. And normally Australian made has better components in it. Normally they are better because the components are not as big a cost compared to the labour, so they normally use better components. But I love Australian made. I also understand we sell a lot of products that are not Australian made in our store at the different price points, and it depends what you want. But I just wanted you to understand about the real cost of Australian made. And if you love Australian made, we have the Copperhead products we sell in our store, and all the Copperhead products is 100%. It actually means Australian made. So they're available in our stores in Toowoomba, Roma and Longreach, or online at Tyson Golder. So if you Google Tyson Golder, Toowoomba, Roma, Longreach, you'll find us. And I'm Tyson Golder. You have a good day. G'day, Tyson Golder. I'm here. We've got our stores in Toowoomba, Roma and Longreach, but I'm here today to talk about Tyson Golder's Common Sense. So what we're talking about today, I just thought it's an opportunity to get in oily fish. Things that people would normally hate to eat, which is sardines, and also anchovies. These are these small, really salty things that not many people like. So very, very good for you. Obviously, you also get some good quality salt and so forth. These are something that we need to have in our diet. But the ones in the big supermarkets, they're really terrible to taste and eat. So if you've tried them in the supermarket, I wouldn't even feed them to my dog. These, I think these are from Spain, and these are really nice quality. So get these into your diet. Start getting some oily fish. You might already be doing it with other things. Obviously, you know, your mackerel and so forth is good, but I'm talking about people that don't have any oily fish, or you live in the bush or whatever. We need to get oily fish into our diet. So these are great on a piece of toast, and obviously, you know, bread's not great for you, but if you have a trade-off that you butter your bread your toast I should say, really well, put them on top, a little bit of greens on top of that, they go down well. And I don't even like salty fish, but this is about, you're happy to go and buy supplements or pills or whatever people give you. This is about food is medicine. So get them into you. And these ones here, the sardines, what I do is I'll just steam a bit of kale with sweet potato, and then I just mix that in hot, and you really can't taste it. And actually, it's not a bad flavour. What people don't realise, things like Worcestershire sauce actually has even got anchovies in it, and people don't even realise because it's balanced with a lot of other things in the vinegars and so forth. So get these into your diet, basically at least twice a week. Mix them with something else so they're more palatable, and expect a difference in, say, 3 months' time. But the benefits of that, you've heard of fish oil and those sorts of products and the scams with fish oil. Some of it can be rancid. This is just the real thing. Like, you can do it with food, eh? Well, you don't need man changing it too much. Just basically, I'm not a big fish eater, but I'm doing this for health, and I've noticed a difference. So, and you know, mental health issues and that, one of the great things, protein's very good for that, but also oily fish. You know, you read the back and you see some of the things that they talk about as really good for your mind, and they're in these. Yep, and also can't not talk about getting breathless in the morning. So I'm not talking about ridiculous amounts. I'm talking about a small change. Stairs. If you find stairs anywhere, longer the stairs are, the better. You might only do 1 step today because that's all you can do. You might have a lot of health issues. And tomorrow do two steps, and then slowly build up. But if it is making you a little bit breathless without, you know, turning into a heart attack or pushing yourself, none of that. Like, this should be slow, incremental increase. It does so much for your muscles and your stability. Because if you're not exercising, do you know that even your nutrients can't be absorbed? Like, tablets can't be absorbed if your body is sedentary, which basically just means it doesn't do anything all day. So look for the stairs. Like, I think it's all backwards. Like, people get older and they go, oh, we need a house with less stairs. No, you actually probably need a house with more stairs, because unless you're doing exercise, and I'm not talking about, you know, fitness exercise as much as core strength, so you don't fall over, so you get an opportunity to still keep driving your car, because they're actually now saying that old age and frailty are not connected. They're just, people get frail because they stop doing things. So, you know, if you're not someone that is motivated to go and do it, do what I do. Go and get a personal trainer. Go and get someone that does it, that holds you, to make sure you do it, because the strength difference in doing that is amazing. We've all heard the studies that you reduce your age by about 10 years if you're doing regular exercise. And what I'm talking about is core strength, so that keeps your balance really good. And I actually, and I really believe this, that I think what the government should do with driver's licenses, if you're doing regular 3 times a week core strengthening exercise, you're allowed to have your license, and you don't need to be going to a doctor, because if you're doing that properly, you are switched on, alert. You're a great driver, because everything to do with stability and your mind, everything gets a benefit. So stairs, they're the cheapest thing in the world. Look for stairs and do a little bit. Do not push yourself too much, but slowly do more, because your body's got to get ready for, oh, we're doing things again, are we? Righto, well, we'll have to build muscles back. They actually have done studies of a muscle of someone that doesn't do anything. It's just like mush. And then the same person, or the same sort of person, then they actually show where they've been doing the exercise, and it's really hard muscle, just like, say, a younger person would have. So basically, use it or lose it. But it is not running. It is not high impact exercise. It is not pushing you till you have a heart attack. It's not doing any of those things. This is just start slow, small. And it's the same with your diet. Like, you don't just go and eat sardines all the time and so forth, because there can be some negatives with that. Just start changing your diet. We all know that the breads They're one molecule of sugar. So no wonder we love bread. No wonder the bakery smells beautiful. And it's got its place, but you know that bread is one molecule of sugar, and that's why it's so yummy. But you've got to balance it with mainly greens, mainly good proteins. If you can get nutrient-dense food, which really means the animals have had more nutrients to eat, and then it ends up for us in what we do. So nutrient-dense food is something that we really need to look for. And to give you an idea, I'll tell you how it's amazing it is. Producers that have gone to regenerative, where basically there's more variety for the cattle to eat and so forth, that meat has more omegas than salmon. So red meat has more omegas than salmon. When you change the diet, and it's not so much just a one mono sort of diet. And we need protein. Protein is what has made the difference to what we do, but we also need a balance. And if you're listening to someone or watching someone, not everything that someone says will be completely correct. But generally, if you take a bit of that, you're going to keep going with your health. So it doesn't matter what age you are. Whatever age you are, you can take 10 years off your life, your actual age, by changing what you eat and getting some exercise in, which is core strengthening, which will stop you falling over, and stairs. So actually, as we get older, I think we need more stairs, not less stairs, but we're not going to run up and down them. We're just going to take it slowly, but use it or lose it. And I've seen many examples where people have started strengthening exercise, age appropriate, and they have changed their life. They've gone from a wheelie walker to they don't need anything. They could walk a kilometre, no problems. They don't need a sit-down wheelie walker. So if you want to change your life, Tyson Golder's common sense is get some oily fish, and you don't need to like it. There's plenty of things in life that you do that you don't need to like. But the number one thing is get some in there, get a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables, get that into your diet, and slowly start doing some exercise. Stairs are the easiest thing because they're like weight bearing, and just do little bits. Oh, and the other thing is, when you have a bad day, and we all have it, and I have quite a few of them, and you don't feel like doing anything, it's very important you do yourself a deal. Do yourself a half price deal. Say, okay, instead of whatever you were doing, if you're doing 2 steps, we'll just do 1 today because I don't feel well. And do 1. Do a little bit of it. If it's not 1, do something. Don't stop completely. Just say, okay, I'll only do 1. Because if I was doing 10 flights of stairs and you said, and I'm used to doing 10, and now I'm doing 5 today, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. If I'm on a treadmill and I normally do 10 minutes and you say, can you just do 5 today? But you still keep going, and that's what we need to do. So on that, Tyson Golder's common sense, we're talking about oily fish and exercise today. Look after yourself. I'm doing these because I think the more that, and I'm a very average standard person, so I want to pass it on, and it gives people something to think about. And look after yourself. I'm Tyson Golder from our stores at Toowoomba, Roma and Longreach. Have a good day. G'day, Tyson Golder from Golder's Toowoomba, Roma and T-Bone in Longreach. I'm here today for a bit of Tyson Golder's common sense. So one of the things I want to talk to about today, and I've spoken to about it before, is we probably got to do the opposite of what we feel like. So number one, we've got to eat a variety of greens in our diet. And if you go to the average servo, you see young fellas, they're just getting something out of the hot box. I mean, that's actually living on borrowed time. So one of the things that we can do is just make sure at least one of our meals is a high amount of vegetables. And also don't forget, veggies aren't veggies because they're growing fast. They used to, do things like they would fallow paddocks and they would just rest the soil. Now sometimes they grow 1 or even 2 crops a year. So the nutrients in the vegetables are not there. and your general health. Like, the government obviously pays for a lot of testing in that, but the government decides what they pay for and what they don't. So the number one thing, I don't think the system is based around wellness. I think the system is based around you not being sick. And there's a big difference. And don't worry, I'm on this journey and I don't have all the answers. All I know is that from 100 years ago, or when slow farming was done, you would have to eat 3 times as much vegetables today to get the same nutrient value. So that's massive. You think you're eating a balanced diet, but it may not be, because no one tests what's in the vegetables. And the variety of vegetables give you different minerals and different benefits. So the variety, and that's the thing that we don't do. We have 2 or 3 vegetables and we just live off those. So that means we only get 2 or 3 sort of vitamin groups and so forth. So number one, don't think that if you're just doing the normal health thing that you're doing wellness. You're probably just not doing sickness. So there's a big difference. And I think the whole area of wellness is going to grow, and I think there should be micro testing done. And some of the latest research is that they're picking up, things like cancers and that. Some of these top people in their field will pick it up 10 years ahead of when it's going to cause problems. So wouldn't that be great to know? So definitely, if you're interested in your health and you're getting that sort of age where you are, look for great wellness professionals, and look for testing that's not about being sick but about being well. And exercise. I mean, if someone, and we all hate exercise. I hate exercise. I'm not an exercise fanatic, but I like what it does. And even if it's just maintenance exercise, so that's probably half an hour 3 times a week. You might start with 5 minutes 3 times a week. You might start with 1 minute if you can't do any more, but slowly build up. And if you have a bad day, just go, okay, today I'm doing half of what I normally do. And that's a pretty good deal. Most people will take that half of what would normally do. Great. And that gets you through stopping on those crappy days. As a psychologist once said, put your shoes on, you're halfway there. So also, if you know you're not going to do it, and I realistically know if I'm not doing it with someone, I'm not going to do it as far as exercise, sign up in a group if you want to keep the cost down, or do one-on-one with personal trainers, exercise physiologists, even, the yoga, Pilates. There's great instructors out there. Just sign up, and then if you do it with someone and you're paying for it, you'll normally turn up. But, one of the statistics I heard about, or the statements, was that at the turn of the century, not this last one, the one before there, 120, 30 years ago, on average, we were doing 15 kilometers a day in the type of exercise the average person would do. Huge amount of, it doesn't mean everyone was doing 15 kilometers, but you might have been using a manual washing machine. You might be walking. You might be doing a lot of physical work. So, yeah, we really need to get that exercise well and truly under control. And for people that are retired, or that's all they need to do. Start with 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then hopefully build up to half an hour. It's got to be age appropriate. Don't think you're going and doing crazy stuff. And also weights, all of the research on weights is that weights are so good for us to lift. Now, we're not talking about barbells and wrecking yourself. We're talking about age appropriate weights that you start very small and then you build up to a reasonable thing, because I really don't think there is such a thing as having to be retired and then being in the situation you have to move out of your own home. I just don't think. I think if we're doing the crucial things, providing there's no, major big health event, but even if you want to stave off those health events, exercise, eating really well, watch the foods and so forth that can really sort of feed cancers and stuff like that.